Hi, I'm Ralph. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we are going to be cutting up some meat, some eye round roast, and we're going to be turning those into steaks instead of leaving it as a roast. Why are we doing this? Because everybody likes to save money. If you're doing carnivore, you're eating a lot of meat. That generally means a lot of expense. You're looking to save money. If you're a senior citizen, you might be on a limited budget. You're looking to save money. If you're a growing family and you have huge grocery bills, you might be looking to save money. This is going to way to save money. I picked this up at Costco. Should be showing you the picture right about now. Got it for a fairly decent price. It's a lot of food, but I'm going to be cutting it up into steaks. I can make them any width that I want. I'm going to be storing them in freezer bags, but I'm also going to be cooking some for dinner tonight. So we're going to go through the whole process of cutting and cooking tonight. So let's get started. Here is half the quantity that was in the package. Now I've got my sharpest knife. Now ideally a butcher's knife or a boning knife is what's usually used. I don't happen to have one of those. So I'm just going to go with my sharpest knife, and I'm just going to cut a couple of, I think, decent sized steaks here. And actually it's cutting so easy, I don't know why anybody would need to have more than this. And we kind of wind up with a little oddball piece, but I can cut this up into little pieces and kind of turn it into beef tips or something like that. So it's not going to go to waste. But in the meantime, on that half, I got 4 steaks. Let's do something with those steaks. Now that we have the steaks all cut up, and I've got most of them put away into the freezer, I'm going to be cooking 2 of them. And I'm going to be doing that in 2 different ways because we know that this cut of meat can be a little bit tough sometimes. As you can tell here, there's not a lot of marbling to this meat. And it's the marbling that gives us the tenderness, the juiciness, the flavor. We're going to do our best to see what we can do. One method I'm going to try to do is going to be in a hot air fryer. The other method I'm going to use is sous vide. The first step for both of those methods is to season them and let them sit for at least an hour to 2 hours to go through a process of osmosis. It's going to be taking that salt into the meat, getting that salt flavor into it. The juices are going to come out because that's what salt does. It draws juices out, but then it reabsorbs those juices with that salt flavor and the tenderizing effect of the salt back into the meat. But the first step is to pat them dry. Next, got some salt here, and we're going to want to salt liberally. Try to salt from high up to get you a little bit better distribution across the meat. Going to want to get that worked in. I shouldn't have done that. I don't want to cross-contaminate the salt with the meat. And with kosher salt, it looks like you're putting a lot on. It's not really too much. Now, if this were table salt, yeah, you can oversalt pretty easily with table salt, not so much with kosher salt. Going to get that rubbed in with my good gloved hand. Now we want to make sure that we're getting it on the sides as well. So all that salt that made it to the plate, we're just going to roll these things into, make sure we get good coverage all the way around. Now I'm going to be putting this back into the refrigerator, like I say, for about the next hour to 2 hours. Then we'll start the next process. The steaks have been in the refrigerator with the salt, hopefully getting tender, and it's time to do something with them. So I'm going to take the first one here, pat it dry. I'm going to add a little bit more in the way of seasoning to it. I'm going to set this one aside for the moment. Also going to add some pepper mix. Now I'm using this Outlaw rub that I've obtained from the Golden Steer Steakhouse out in Vegas. And they've been kind enough to give me a little link that will take you to their website. And I think it's going to get you a little discount if you do that. But I've been experimenting with this, and it's a pretty darn good little spice. Now I'm going to put that in here. Oh, you know what? I'm going to add one more step. We're going to put a meat thermometer into it. Make sure it didn't come out the other side. Now we're going to put it in. Set it up. Going to use the steak button and turn it on, and we'll see how this works out. And I'm going to be able to check the internal temperature, so if it needs to come out a little bit early or stay a little bit longer, we will know. Be back in a second. Okay, while this one is cooking in the hot air fryer, we're going to be doing the other one sous vide. Now that's going to take a lot longer because this is generally thought of as a tougher piece of meat. So whereas I might have cooked a New York strip steak for 2 hours, I'm going to leave this in there for probably maybe a good 6. But in the meantime, I'm going to pat that dry. Add a little bit more salt. Add some of that special pepper rub. Get that all rubbed in. Put that in our freezer bag. Now, I want to make sure that this is good and juicy. So another product from that Golden Steer Steakhouse, we're going to be using what they call the maitre d' butter. It's a finishing butter. It's got a lot of garlic in it. I think that's just really going to top this off, but I'm also hoping that the butter in the bag while it's cooking is going to help us with the level of juiciness, tenderness. Just keep it nice and moist. Just a little bit more. Now, in order to close that up, we're going to be using the dispersion method. We put it into the water. First, I'm going to snap up. Make sure that's a good connection there. Yes, snap it up most of the way. Get it almost fully submerged. Finish that little connection. And we're pretty well sealed up. So I'm just going to leave that in there. We'll get that started shortly. In the meantime, we'll wait on the hot air fryer to finish, and we'll check that one out. This one's going to take a little while. Okay. According to the meter probe thermometer, we are just about ready to pull it. And there we go. We'll get that probe out. You do have to be careful because they will be hot. And this one does not want to come out very easily. Here we go. Now, I'm going to let it set for just a moment, but it shouldn't have to sit for very long. Meter is telling me it's ready right now. We'll get a little extra of that garlic butter on there. As you can see, that's what it's telling me. So I will just X out of that, and we will cut this open and see what we've got. Here we go. I'll cut that open here in the middle. Okay. Now, I cooked it to basically kind of a rare to medium rare, because that's kind of how I like my steak. That's what it's looking like inside. It's not going to be cooked the way a lot of steak perfectionists like it. I mean, it's a hot air fryer. It's only going to do so good. But if you want it done quickly, hot air fryer is kind of hard to beat. So, Gunnar and I are anxious to see what this tastes like. That's pretty good. Is it a little bit chewier than, say, a New York strip steak or a ribeye? Yes, of course it is. But is it acceptable? Yeah, I think it probably is. Gunnar, come have a sample. There you go, buddy. Come here. Good boy. Gunnar approves that. Now, on to the next, where we're going to be doing it in sous vide. I just have to turn the heat on for that, and I'll see you all in about 5-6 hours. Okay, I've just pulled the steak out of the sous vide, but obviously with the sous vide, you don't have any real browning to it, but it's cooked all the way through. So I'm going to go over to the stove and grill it up over there. Okay. Crank that heat up. We don't need to leave it on for very long because it's fully cooked. We just need to get a little sear on it. Okay, that's 1 minute for that side. And I'm going to need to flip it a couple of times here. Okay, time to flip it again. That's starting to get a little crust on there. We're going to flip it again after 30 seconds. I'll move it around to soak up some of that fond in the pan. There's a lot of good flavor in that fond. That's it. And I'm going to call that done. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, that cut very nicely. That's what it's looking like inside. I have to say there's still a little bit of a gray band in here, but it's overall looking a whole lot better than from the hot air fryer. Ideally, I would have liked to have not had to grill it for so long in the skillet, but you know, you wanted to get a little color on there. I think it's cutting a little bit nicer. And how is it going to taste? Oh wow, world of difference between this and the hot air fryer. If you have the time, this is definitely the better way to do it. If you're short of time, you can get by with the hot air fryer. But it's so much simpler to do it this way, and you get a much better product. Now, it turned out I had that in for about 5 hours. Now, I do recommend, no matter how you do it, you cut it very thin, because that's going to help with the tenderness too. So nice thin cuts. Hope you liked the video. Maybe give me a like down below, maybe a subscription, and I will see you next week.